Hey guys, I just uploaded this last video called "My Steroid Story," and as soon as I pressed stop on the phone, stop recording, I just immediately thought of another story that I wanted to share with you guys, but I kind of forgot about it in that video, so I'm going to share it with you guys today, now. So I mentioned in the last video that I was a nurse. I worked in an emergency department of a large hospital, and so this happened a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting at triage. I was triage nurse for the shift. And this young girl comes to the window and says, "Oh, you gotta help my boyfriend. He's really unwell. He's sitting in the waiting room." I said, "Oh, why don't you just get him up, and I'll assess him here at the window and check him out and book him on and so on." And she said, "No, I can't. Like he's really unwell." I said, "Oh, well, how's he unwell?" And so I'm kind of getting up and sort of started to kind of walk around, and she's like, "Oh, he's really short of breath. He's really short of breath." So anyway, I've kind of picked up, some things that I needed, went over and I saw the guy and had this kind of big bowl of whatever, just a bucket that he was, so I thought, vomiting into. Um, and so I said to him, "Hey, how you going, mate? My name's Ivan, triage nurse, blah, 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 blah. What's happening, mate?" And she kind of tried to kind of butt in. I said, "Darling, I want to have a chat to him. I want to assess him." And he said, "Oh," and it looked, color was shit. And he kind of looked at me and he said, "Man, I'm coughing up all this fluid. I'm coughing up copious amounts of fluid." And I said, "Are you sure you're coughing it? Because it seems as though you might be vomiting it." He said, "No, I'm pretty certain I'm coughing it up." I said, "Okay, did you go out last night?" This was kind of a Sunday. I said, "Did you go out last night? Have you had a big one? Did you guys, drunk a lot of alcohol?" He said, Yeah. We're out on the piss all night last night, and had a big night." I said, standard questions. I said, "Have you taken any drugs?" And he said to me, Yeah, we did." I said, "Oh, what sort of drugs have you taken?" And he said, "Oh, we were taking some ecstasy tablets and we were doing coke and, I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." And I said to him, as I was kind of doing a couple of things around him, blood pressure, and I was putting the oximeter onto his finger, he said to me, "Yeah, so we did it all that last night with alcohol, all that." And I said, "Oh, do you generally do this all the time?" And he said, No. I'm a fitness guy. Like, I try to keep fit." And I said, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "What do you do?" And he said, "Oh, well, I'm on steroids. I'm trying to, put on muscle and all that stuff. So I've been quite serious about that for the last year and a half." I said, "Oh, you take steroids as well?" He said, Yeah. I said, "Oh, what do you take?" And he started saying, "Oh, I take Psalms, I take this, that, the other." And he said to me, "I take Trembolone acetate." And so automatically I kind of know that name, and I know that it's a top shelf steroid. And I said to him, "Oh, so how long have you been taking that for?" And he said, 18 months. And so I said, "Oh, have you been, like, you've been cycling it?" He said, No, I've been just taking it straight up. I haven't taken cycles. Automatically in my brain, I'm not an expert, but I'm not expert on steroids, but I know that cycling this heavy steroids is not a good idea. So anyway, but by then I've got some numbers on the screen, and I had a look at my oximeter, and I could not believe what I was seeing. So this patient probably goes down as top 5 most interesting patients I've ever triaged, predominantly because he was so unexpectedly sick. His SATS monitor reading was 50, I think 3 or 4%. 54% with a very, very good pleth. Now, a couple of technical terms here. So, blood oxygen saturation should be above 95%. What that basically means is that we put a little probe on your finger, and we measure how much oxygen your blood is carrying. So it should be around 95% and above, especially for a young guy like that. It should be pretty much 100%. For him, it was 50%. Now, just to give you some perspective, that is like really, really sick. People with severe illness have this sort of stuff. In fact, I was very surprised that this fellow was conscious even, with a SATS of 50%. His heart rate was also 170 beats per minute, so he was in a bad way. So at that point, I got a wheelchair, wheeled him into the resus room, and I called the resus team, and the guy started, taking care of him and stuff. And after the fact, I spoke to the consultant on duty, and I said to him, "Mate, like, what's going on? Like, can you just give me, some information about how he's going?" Because at this time I was kind of getting ready to go home, and so I've kind of handed over triage to somebody else, one of my colleagues. And the consultant said to me, that sure, he probably has some sort of cardiomyopathy going on, but it's not responsible for his presentation today. Most likely it's not. What the presentation was probably caused by was that he was snorting cocaine, and he basically essentially irritated the living hell out of the lining of the lungs and the trachea, and so he gave himself something called pneumonitis, which is essentially an inflammation of the lining of the lungs, pneumonitis, pneumonia, whatever. And so at the time when I first put that SARS probe on, I thought to him, oh my God, like this is even topping the last story that I told you guys with the guy destroying his heart completely in 5 years. I thought this guy's done it in a year and a half, but no, for this person, he basically caused himself all this grief through doing cocaine, and so I just wanted to share that story with you because I thought it was remarkable. A guy on steroids, supposedly really, really fit, doing a whole bunch of other drugs, doing MDMA or ecstasy, and also doing cocaine on the side. And yeah, that just kind of feeds back into the last video that I talked about. Young guys not giving a fuck. It's pretty much the case. I mean, I see it all the time in emergency, working as a nurse in an emergency department. I see it all the time, but this guy was supposed to be on sort of my frequency of training and taking care of yourself, and here he is, not only doing steroids but completely doing party drugs, recreational drugs, and so it was just baffling to me to think that not only is steroids a big thing for me, but I would never even conceive to doing cocaine and MDMA, and so he's kind of throwing everything into the bucket, and so not only are the steroids kind of putting his heart at risk, but he's also doing other stuff to make his heart pump even harder and put extra strain on his heart. It's just incredible. But anyway, that's another story for you guys. It was phenomenal to see a 22-year-old in that state. But he went to ICU after that, and he kind of I think he got better and he went home and whatever. But it just goes to show you that young people just are careless beyond recognition, and drugs are becoming a really, really big problem, especially here in Adelaide, Australia. We're sort of known as the meth capital of the world, which is kind of not a nice title to have, but methamphetamines are a big problem. And here was a fella that was supposed to be on steroids, and my understanding of people that are on steroids is that they generally, that's all they do. Like, they don't drink alcohol. They're supposed to be bodybuilders, right? So they're supposed to keep everything in check, use steroids to kind of enhance themselves. But this guy was doing other shit on top. Like, it was phenomenal. Anyway, that's another little story I thought you guys might find interesting. But anyway, if I come up with some more stories, I might share with you guys. All right, see you guys.